Hi, what's up, y'all? It's Knowledge. Welcome to Brews and Reviews, and today we are reviewing Bishop Nehru's Nehruvia, My Disregarded Thoughts, and I am sipping on a Stone IPA. That's a 6.9% IPA. Very traditional flavor, very good and classic kind of IPA, and it's got me feeling really good right now, so let's get on to this review. I first became aware of Bishop on the MF Doom project, like probably a lot of people did out there. It seemed like that was his mainstream debut, and I was very impressed with that. It made me hungry to hear some more from Bishop. I thought it was a good start, and he was definitely a good MC coming across with that and supported by Doom. How can you go wrong? The best song on that I thought was Om. And you immediately realize that he had some Hindu, Indian influences, given that and his name. Nehru was the first prime minister of India after Gandhi was there and doing his thing. So I thought that's cool because I'm really into Hindu and Indian culture too. And on this LP, he even mentions some things like Lotus, which all tie into that theme. And I would say that this one is a little more complete. You can hear his growth. It's hard to believe that Nehruvian Doom was 6 years ago, and this dude's only 23 now, so he was really young when he dropped that project, and I can't even believe it's been that long. But you can hear the growth. This one sounds more complete. This is a concept album. That's something that you usually hear from people that are a little bit older, more mature, dropped a few more albums than this guy has. And something else that I didn't realize is that he produces a lot of his own stuff. There's a lot of his own production on this, and that all adds to the cohesiveness of the album along with the concept. You realize very quickly from track one that there's something going on here, that this is going to be a concept album. This has acts 1 and 2, just like his previous album Elevators did, but it works even more on this concept because I think you hear a lot about duality, and that's really what he's going for, is these two different sides or these two different things, these two different feelings, these acts 1 and 2. Act 1 is more somber. Act 2 is a little more hype, a little more confident, braggadocious, and that comes to fruition as the album gets going. So on the intro, he's talking about a guy that finds a magical mixtape, and I think that's cool because it reminds me of the anticipation that I used to have when buying an album in older times, a cassette tape, or after that a CD, which I still do, or vinyl to these days, and the anticipation of listening to it. He kicks a great flow going into the very first song on the intro, Colder. And he has a great line on this. He says, I'm the guy trying to keep a positive mind, but always being tested by the devil and God, which all adds to the duality and what you hear on the album and the differences between Act 1 and Act 2 on this. In My Zone is the first real track after the intro, and that immediately gets you going. It's dark to play with the concept of Act 1, but it's also a head nodder, so I think that works to kind of suck you into the album. And then it goes on to Why Does the Night Sky Talk to Me? Very cool title, one of the many highlights on the album. There's no drums on this song, and this song was one of them that was produced by Nehru himself. I always like that style with no drums if a rapper can make it work, and Bishop makes it work here. We've heard it work in the past from Nas. He was successful with this kind of style twice in his career, particularly on Thug's Mansion. But this song, it kind of reminds me of Stay, if you remember that from Nas's Life is Beautiful, which was a great track. This is equally good, and Nehru executes his flow expertly over this drumless track. He also has an adequate chorus on it, and there's a nice saxophone at the end that adds to the somberness of the first half of this album. You also realize at this point that this first act, which is also called The Abyss, is going to be very, very dark. The next track, Little Suzy, has another unique structure. It's a long drumless intro and then gets very catchy once he gets into the thick of the track, and it ends in a guitar solo. out of left field. I really like this production. It's something different. And this song, Little Suzy, it actually has my favorite line on the album where he says, "And they be saying that pride holding you back most of the time. Rewind, pride hold your back most of the time." So I think that's extremely poignant for his age, and just a cool line and a different way to look at something that we've all heard a bunch of times before. So right after Little Suzy and this crazy guitar solo and this crazy production, then bam, you're hit with DJ Premier on one of the standout tracks on the album, which is Too Lost. And this is great. This is classic Premier. It's the little piano loop with Guru sample scratched up on the chorus. It just doesn't get much better than this. Reminds me of the 90s. And Nehru, he comes in with 90s flow on the whole thing, and he fits right in over this DJ Premier production. And I think that's great that he got it. I don't know how he got a Premier beat, but it's really cool that he did. And this really works as the last kind of dark and distraught song on the album. And again, we hear the duality that's going on because he's talking to two different voices on this. One turns out to be his inner child. And if we bring it back to the intro where he's talking about being tested by the devil and God, I think this plays into that. I wish he would have gone just a little bit further with that concept, because I think he was almost there, and he really could have made that work on this DJ Premier track, as it's the last song of Act 1, and it transitions into Act 2. Now, in the second act, we hear it's much more confident, much more braggadocious, and it starts with the song 350 in LA. And I love the production on this. The drums, they have a live band kind of sound on them, and I think he did this production himself. His production definitely holds down the whole album. While I like the concept of it and I like his flows, his production is what makes it sound even more cohesive than just the concept alone. Emperor is one of the few missteps. The beat and chorus are kind of redundant on this. I don't really mind it because it does add to the concept and more of being confident and being braggadocious on the second act. So it's not like something that you necessarily need to skip, but it's not one of my favorite songs on this at all. And definitely if the album were made up of songs like this, it wouldn't be nearly as good and not something that I would repeat. But the next track makes up for it. Our energy is astral. It's very breathy and atmospheric. I kind of feel high just listening to this song, or maybe it's this, I don't know, one of those two things, or maybe those things combined. But the production is very atmospheric on this. It gets you up in the clouds. And it ends with another guitar solo, so it's interesting some of the production choices that he chose. And I don't know if he plays guitar, but this sounds like it's live instrumentation. The song Meathead, which likely will bring a lot of people to this album, that's the first and only feature on this album. So it's Bishop holding it down, besides the MF Doom feature that comes with Meathead. This does sound very Doom-esque. Doom kind of takes over with his sound as he produced this track, and it's just what we expect from MF Doom. The video looks like an MF Doom video. It's got his old comic book style on the whole thing, but that's cool because it's going to bring people into the album, although it does make it sound a little bit out of place here, even though I know that Doom is his mentor in a way. Bishop is going for a quite different sound on this album. So it does seem a little bit out of place, but hey, I welcome it. Doom, he does what he does on it, but I think Bishop got him a little bit on this song. His flow goes hard, and I think he got the better of MF Doom on it. So while they've meshed well on their previous work, this might have been better as just a single or a non-album kind of song. All of My Years, the kid can actually sing. He's got some talent there that I didn't know that he had. I think I heard a few of his songs in the past where he was trying to sing and it didn't quite work. And you hear some more of that a little bit later on this album, but it definitely works on All of My Years. And he employs a different flow on this than we've heard on the prior tracks. So he continues to switch it up, keep things interesting while still sticking to the same theme. At the same time, he should be careful with the singing because there's a couple tracks after that it's not really done effectively. It doesn't work. It's not employed well on Me and My Thoughts and Carefree Black Boy. The latter, Carefree Black Boy, kind of surprised me because it has more of a modern style, something that you might hear from a Travis Scott or somebody like that. And whereas I thought that Bishop fit right in with DJ Premier, he doesn't necessarily fit in with this new style. I don't know why he did it. It's cool to change things up and keep things different, and I'm not biased against the modern style. I just don't think it really worked for Bishop Nehru on this particular track, and he should be singing without the assistance of the computer, and because we know that works, as he displayed on All of My Years. Never Slow, the last track, that's a standout. It has a smooth bass line that Bishop rides with ease. And it's a great way to wrap up the album. It brings it all together and it sums up Act 2 completely. When he's saying that life gets hard, you just gotta go. That's saying just move on. Don't worry about the abyss and everything that we heard in Act 1. Just go on. You gotta go. So that wraps it up very nicely, and I always love it when there's a climax on an album or something that ties it all together. So he did that very nicely on this smooth track at the very end. Overall, Bishop's grown quite a bit. I can hear the growth between what he dropped on Nehruvia Doom and this. I wasn't all that impressed with his last album, Elevators, but this more than makes up for it. And this is his best album to date. I can hear his potential on this, and I want to see him take it even a step further. This kid can rap. He's got a stellar flow. He's got some good lyrics. He's got a good head on his shoulders, coming up with concept themes and things like that. While he could have done it a little bit more on this album, this is really his first attempt at that. And I think that it worked, especially for his age and his tenure in the game. He can produce. And now we know he could even sing a little bit. So he's a bit of a jack of all trades, and I think he can use that to his advantage in the future. I'm very anxious to hear what he comes up with because I have high hopes for this kid going forward. The concept on this could have been executed a little bit better, but the whole project was cohesive, and that's something that you don't hear from a lot of rap albums these days. So I'm going to rate Nehruvia, my Disregarded Thoughts, as a 9 out of a 12 pack. It'll get you feeling good and you'll be buzzing for a while. This has been Brews and Reviews. And if you like this, hit like, subscribe, comment, tell me if you agree. If you like Bishop Nehru's latest album, if you hear the potential that I heard, then put that in the comments. And otherwise, check out these other videos from Brews and Reviews.